We often think of history as something vast, unknowable, a story too long, too complex to understand in one sitting. But what if I told you we could do it? What if we could sit down and walk together through every major moment in human civilization, from the first spark of fire to the rise of artificial intelligence? This is not just a documentary, it's a journey, one that begins in darkness and ends in light. Long before cities, before nations, before even language, there were humans, not just us. Others came before: Neanderthals, Denisovans, Homo erectus, all walking the earth at different times. But only one species survived and built everything we know today. In Africa, we lived in caves, we hunted, we gathered, and then we discovered fire. That single spark changed everything. Fire gave us warmth, tools gave us power, language gave us connection, and slowly we began to settle. We learned to farm. We built villages, then towns, then cities. One of the first great civilizations rose in Mesopotamia between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Here, humans wrote their first words, built their first walls, created their first laws, and from there, the world began to change forever. So much lies ahead. Empires will rise and fall. Religions will spread like wildfire. Wars will reshape borders. Technology will redefine life itself. And in this documentary, we'll explore it all, from the pyramids of Egypt to the digital towers of Silicon Valley. Because this isn't just a history lesson. This is the full arc of humanity. From cavemen to cyborgs, from myths to machines. So, let's begin. Long before cities, before writing, before even fire, there were the first humans, not just Homo sapiens, but our ancient cousins, Neanderthals, Denisovans, and others we've only just begun to understand. We were born in Africa, scientists agree on that much, but how did we get out and why? Some say it was climate change. Others believe it was curiosity or hunger or war. Whatever the reason, we began to move out of the forest into the open, across rivers, deserts, and oceans. At first, we lived as hunter-gatherers, small bands moving with the seasons, following food, fire, and survival. We made tools from stone, bone, and wood. We painted stories on cave walls. We buried our dead, a sign of emotion, of meaning beyond survival. Then came fire, our greatest tool. It gave us warmth, protection, light in the dark. And more than that, It gave us control over nature itself. Fire let us cook food fueling bigger brains. It let us gather at night building language, culture, and connection. And then something changed. We stopped wandering. We started staying, farming, building, creating, because the story of civilization doesn't begin with kings or empires. It begins with a single decision. We will stay here. That decision led to the first great civilizations, Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley. So this wasn't just about survival. It was about transformation, from wild to settled, from tribes to cities, from myth to laws. Around 10,000 years ago, something changed. The ice was retreating, climates were shifting, and humans began to settle. In the fertile lands between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, one of the first great civilizations took root. Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. It wasn't just about farming or fire anymore. This was the birth of cities, Uruk, Nippur, Babylon. Writing, cuneiform pressed into clay tablets. Law, Hammurabi's Code, one of history's earliest legal systems. Trade, caravans carried goods across deserts and mountains. Warfare, empires rose through conquest. Sumerians, Akkadians, Assyrians, and Babylonians all fought for control. Meanwhile, far to the west, another civilization was watching the stars. Along the Nile River, the people of ancient Egypt built monuments not just to power but to eternity. Pyramids, temples, tombs filled with gold, spells, and secrets. Pharaohs ruled as gods. Priests held cosmic knowledge. Farmers fed millions using flood cycles, so predictable they became sacred. While Mesopotamia was chaotic and competitive, Egypt was stable, centralized, and divine. And in the east, the Indus Valley civilization flourished in modern-day India, and Pakistan advanced in city planning, water systems, and trade. They didn't leave behind many written records, but their ruins tell a story of quiet brilliance. Then came Shang China, where writing bronze weapons and ritual kingship gave birth to an empire that would shape East Asia for millennia. These early civilizations weren't just settlements, they were the foundation of everything that followed, because once humans learned to organize, record, and build, there was no going back. As cities grew, so did ambition. No longer were people ruled by chiefs or elders. Now, kings commanded armies. Armies carved out vast territories. And thus, the age of empires had begun. From Persia to Greece, from Rome to China, empires shaped the world not just through war, but through culture, law, language, and belief. Think of Alexander the Great, who spread Greek ideas across 3 continents before dying at just 32. Or Rome, which ruled for over 500 years, building roads, aqueducts, and laws that still influence us today. In the East, the Qin and Han dynasties unified China under strong central rule, creating a model that survives in many ways to this day. And in the Americas, civilizations like the Olmecs, Maya, and Inca built their own empires without the wheel, without iron tools, but with stunning architecture, astronomy, and spiritual depth. These weren't just rulers. They were visionaries, engineers, cultural architects. Empires didn't just conquer land, they conquered minds. So what happens next? Faith rises, religions spread, and the world begins to worship something greater than kings. As empires rose and fell, something new began to take hold. Not just kings or armies, but belief. Across the world, humans started asking questions they couldn't answer with swords or laws. Why are we here? What happens after death? Is there a higher power watching us? And so, the age of faith began. In the Middle East, Judaism took root, a faith that believed in one God, not many. It shaped everything that followed, including Christianity, which spread across the Roman Empire like wildfire. Then came Islam, born from the deserts of Arabia, uniting tribes, building a global civilization, and reaching from Spain to India within decades. Meanwhile, in South Asia, Hinduism continued its ancient traditions, shaping law, caste, and society in ways still felt today. Buddhism emerged as a path of peace, spreading from India to China, Japan, and Southeast Asia. And in China, Confucianism gave rulers a moral code. Taoism taught harmony with nature. Buddhism brought meditation, art, and philosophy. These weren't just beliefs. They were blueprints for life, how to rule, how to live, how to die, and they gave birth to some of the greatest structures ever built: cathedrals, mosques, temples, monasteries filled with knowledge and silence. Because in this age, faith ruled the world. In the West, the mighty Roman Empire collapsed under pressure from internal decay and external invasions. Cities fell into ruin, roads cracked, aqueducts dried up. Europe entered what many call the Dark Ages, though it was never truly dark. In monasteries, monks preserved ancient texts, Greek, Roman, and Christian alike. In the Islamic world, scholars translated Aristotle and Archimedes, keeping science alive when much of Europe had forgotten it. While in the East, the Byzantine Empire held strong, preserving Roman law, Christian tradition, and imperial structure for nearly 1,000 years more. So was it really an age of darkness, or was it a time of transformation? One thing is clear: the world had changed forever. By the 14th century, something stirred in Europe. Art, science, exploration, and above all, curiosity. This was the Renaissance, a rebirth of ancient knowledge, fueled by new ideas and a hunger for discovery. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci painted humanity as divine. Scientists like Galileo challenged the heavens themselves. Writers like Shakespeare explored the soul like never before. And at the same time, a new force was rising. Exploration. Ships crossed oceans. Compasses pointed westward, and the world was about to become one. The next chapter begins with a single question. What if the Earth wasn't the center of the universe? For most of human history, the world was divided. Continents were separated by vast oceans. Ideas stayed local. Cultures evolved in isolation. But that changed in the 15th century when humans dared to sail beyond the horizon. With maps drawn from ancient knowledge and new courage, explorers set out not just for discovery, but for power, gold, and faith. Portugal, led by Prince Henry the Navigator, began mapping Africa's coast. Spain, under Columbus, crossed the Atlantic seeking Asia, but finding a whole new world. And so began the Age of Exploration, an era that would change everything. Empires built ships that could cross oceans. Compasses replaced stars as guides. Trade routes stretched across the globe, linking Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas like never before. But with exploration came conquest. Spain and Portugal carved up the New World. The Aztec and Inca empires fell to steel and disease. Millions perished. Millions moved. Africans were taken in chains across the sea, fueling colonial economies at unimaginable cost. China and India watched powerful, wealthy, but untouched by European rule for now. And yet, this age wasn't just about war and trade. It was also about exchange, crops, animals, ideas, religions, even diseases. This became known as the Columbian Exchange, the moment when the world truly became one. From this point on, no civilization would ever be isolated again, because once you open the seas, you can never close them. For thousands of years, humans lived by hand and horse. Fields were plowed with wooden plows. Cities lit by candle and fire. Time measured by church bell and sunrise. But then came a moment unlike any before it. The Industrial Revolution. It began in Britain, but spread like wildfire across Europe, the Americas, and eventually the world. Steam engines replaced muscle. Factories rose where farms once stood. Railways stitched nations together at breakneck speed. With machines came power not just mechanical, but political. The rich got richer. The poor moved to cities searching for work, finding smoke and steel instead. And with industry came imperialism. European powers raced to control land, labor, and resources from India to Africa, from Southeast Asia to Latin America. This was no longer just about survival or faith. This was about control, about progress, about who would rule the modern world. Science became king. Inventions like the telegraph, telephone, and light bulb redefined daily life. And soon, war followed suit. The same machines that built cities also built weapons more powerful than ever imagined. World War I, World War II, the Cold War arms race. Because once you give humanity machines, you can never take them back. So now the question becomes, what happens when machines start thinking on their own? That's next. Let's keep going. Humanity had built empires. It had explored every corner of the earth. It had harnessed machines that could do what once took 1,000 men. But with all this progress came a new kind of horror. In the early 20th century, 2 wars would reshape everything. Not just borders, not just governments, but human nature itself. The First World War began not for land or gold, but for pride, alliances, and power plays gone wrong. Trenches stretched across Europe. Poison gas choked the air. Airplanes flew for the first time in battle, and millions died. For what? No one knew, but the war ended with revolutions, collapsed empires, and a fragile peace that wouldn't last. Because from that chaos rose an even darker chapter, the Second World War, fueled by hate, hunger for control, and the deadliest ideology ever known. Hitler, Mussolini, Imperial Japan, death camps, atomic bombs, total war. This was no longer just about soldiers, it was about civilians, cities, the very idea of humanity. Over 100 million people died directly or indirectly because of these wars. Borders were redrawn. Colonialism collapsed. New superpowers emerged. America and Russia locked in a new kind of war. One fought with spies, with propaganda, with nuclear threats and space races, because after the smoke cleared, the world had changed forever. We had proven we could destroy ourselves completely, and now we had to learn how to live again. So let's keep going into the Cold War and the digital age that followed. After the devastation of World War II, the world didn't find peace. It found a new kind of war, one without open battlefield but filled with danger just the same. 2 superpowers stood tall. The United States, championing capitalism and democracy. The Soviet Union, spreading communism across continents. And so began the Cold War, fought not with tanks, but with spies, propaganda, and nuclear threats. Korea, Vietnam, Cuba, Afghanistan. Proxy wars burned across the globe, while the real fight stayed frozen between Washington and Moscow. Then came technology, the next great force shaping humanity. Satellites, space travel, computers, the internet, and eventually artificial intelligence. The Cold War ended not with a bang, but with the fall of a wall. But what followed wasn't peace, it was globalization, digital revolution, and new rivalries. China rose as an economic titan. Europe rebuilt itself united by trade, not empires. America became the world's only superpower until others challenged its rule. Now, power isn't just measured in bombs or armies. It's measured in code, data, and influence. We've gone from fire to AI, from cavemen to cyborgs, from gods carved in stone to algorithms shaping our minds. So what comes next? Will AI take over? Will climate define our future? Or will space become our next battlefield? One thing is certain: history doesn't stop here. It only keeps moving forward. We've traveled through time, from firelit caves to digital cities, from ancient gods carved in stone to algorithms shaping our minds. And now, we must ask, what have we learned? Is history just a collection of dates and battles, or is it something more? It's a mirror, a reflection of who we are and who we might become. One thing has remained constant throughout human history: power shifts, from kings to emperors, from priests to scientists, from land to data, from muscle to machines. But power always comes with a cost. The fall of Rome taught us even the greatest can collapse. The Industrial Revolution showed us progress creates inequality before it brings prosperity. The World Wars reminded us ideology can destroy civilizations, and the Cold War warned us the future can be lost in fear. Across 10,000 years, humans have fought, traded, believed, built, destroyed, rebuilt. Yet one truth remains: we are more alike than we are different. Every civilization had its heroes and villains, its golden ages and dark times, its moments of brilliance and moments of madness. And no matter where we came from, Mesopotamia, Egypt, China, India, the Americas, we all ask the same questions. Who are we? Why are we here? How do we build a better world? Mark Twain once said, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes." Look at today's world: AI, climate change, global conflict. Do we see echoes of the past, of empires falling under pressure, of ideologies dividing people, of technology outpacing ethics? Then as now, progress was never free of danger. Power was never without consequence. Civilization was never guaranteed. So what should we take from this journey? That history is not behind us. It's all around us. And most importantly, it's still being written.